Now to discuss is the U.S. Representative for Kentucky's 1st Congressional District, James Comer, the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee. Thanks for being here tonight, Congressman.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So first, before we touch on these COVID hearings that you and some of your Republican colleagues are currently calling for, can I get your reaction to that montage we just played on inflation and the lies coming from the Biden administration?
Well, they clearly didn't see it coming. This is an administration that lives in a bubble. They have no idea what the average American is going through right now. This administration is comprised of career government bureaucrats and college professors, neither of whom go to Main Street, go to the coffee houses, go to the local stores and listen to what the average American has to say or what the challenges that the average American is facing right now. So this administration is completely out of the loop. They didn't see it coming. And when they say that, the solution to inflation is to pass the Build Back Better, that shows they have no comprehension of what caused inflation. This inflation was caused because they have spent way too much money, and all they want to do moving forward is spend even more money, which will make inflation even worse.
And now moving to these possible CDC hearings that you and some of your colleagues are asking for. I've part of the letter here. You're part of this letter that's been sent to the Oversight Committee Chairwoman, Congresswoman Maloney, and also to the Select Subcommittee Chairman, and that would be Jim Clyburn, who's also the Majority Whip for the House. Have you heard back at all on this letter for hearings on the CDC and their handling of COVID-19?
We have not heard back. We're going to continue to press forward with this. The CDC has an annual budget prior to COVID of $2 billion. Congress appropriated just in 2021 an additional $7 billion for COVID. This CDC has had absolutely no government oversight. They've not been transparent with where they've spent this money. We know that a lot of the decisions they made that affected every American, especially our school children, was probably based on political science rather than medical science. So we have a lot of questions. One rule that you study history so you don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Congress needs to get the CDC under oath and ask all the questions. What did you base mask wearing decisions on? What did you base these decisions on natural immunity and all the statements that you made that created shutdowns and lockdowns and led to virtual learning instead of in-person learning that disrupted every American's life, that has created supply chain crises, that has just totally disrupted our lives? What did you base these decisions on? We need to first make sure this never happens again. Secondly, if these decisions were based on purely political science decisions, then we need to hold those people accountable. And that's what Republicans are trying to do. If they're not going to do this over the remaining 6 months of while the Democrats are in power, then I can promise you in January, if the Republicans take the majority, they're going to have leaders of the CDC, past and present, under oath before the House Oversight Committee.
And of course, sadly, we're hearing that we've passed now the million mark when it comes to deaths that have been attributed, at least in part, to COVID-19. The bulk of these deaths happening under Joe Biden. He told us he had a plan to end the pandemic. Obviously, none materialized. Also, this is happening when we've had 3 vaccines on the market. Of course, especially last year, we saw the heavy push on Americans to get vaccinated, and yet we're seeing a lot of deaths still. Do you think that there are, as you were saying earlier, a lot of questions that still need to be answered?
There's so many questions. Prior to COVID, CDC was a respected government agency. This was an agency that I think most Americans had a certain level of confidence in. During the pandemic, the CDC made decisions that affected all of our lives in a dramatic way. But now we've learned that a lot of these decisions were based on purely political reasons as opposed to medical reasons. And it's just had a terrible impact, not just on our economy, but on the education of our children. We want to know who made these decisions and what did they base these decisions on? These are simple questions. We shouldn't even have to ask for these. The CDC should have already provided this, but they've been all over the board. They've spent money at record levels. They keep coming to Congress asking for more money. It's unacceptable, and they need to account for the decisions they've already made, account for the money they've already spent before they come to Congress and asking for more money. But I believe that hopefully when Republicans take control, you're going to see some major reforms at the CDC in the future.
Well, that's what we hope to see. Congressman, thank you so much for dropping by tonight.
Thanks for having me on.